Hello, everyone. Thank you for visiting my channel, Educational Norm. I work as an educational consultant, which means that I have the opportunity to interact and visit with many teachers across Ohio and beyond. Those interactions have driven me to tell their stories and their ideas on education. The goal of Educational Norm is to provide an informational network that focuses on positive aspects of education, the people preparing students for the future of our world. Join us each week for a new interview, and please subscribe and share the channel with others that you think may enjoy the program. Thank you and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Today with us, we have Cheryl McDonugh. Cheryl is the school improvement facilitator and works for as an online course coordinator for Collins Educational Associates. She's also the director and owner of the think tank Educational Service of New England. She also is now the former executive director of the Great Bay Charter School. So welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Well, hello, Norm. How are you today?
Good. It's been a long time since we've had a chance to talk. It's good seeing you here.
It's always good seeing you, even when you pop up in one of my meetings, and I think I almost recognize you.
Well, it was a while. So Cheryl and I were both consulting at a school down in Ohio, and I snuck into her online course, and she didn't. She goes, "I used to know a Norm Potter from Dundee, Michigan. Is that the same one?" And sure enough, it was. It was great seeing you that day, and
Funny.
that was a fun day. That was a good day for both of us. I think it was just good hearing you talk your strategies and your ideas and just your nature of how you get your points across is always fun to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
good thing. So I met Cheryl probably 15, 16 years
Hey,
ago now. And she was doing some work in Dundee schools where I was a teacher at the time. And she came in with Collins writing, which was a focus of ours. And not only was it Collins, but it was just good teaching practices. And I loved your honesty and I won't say bluntness because it's not blunt. It's just matter of fact, here's the research, here's what we do, and here's what works. Take it or leave it.
right,
That's how I feel
right.
about
No,
it.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a good approach. So tell us a little bit about your educational journey to get where you're at now and how your roles have changed over time.
Okay. Well, I did most of my schooling in New Hampshire. I grew up in New Hampshire. I went to Keene State College, which was a teacher's college mostly at the time. Now it has very few teachers, which is sad to me.
Hmm.
That is now like one of their least subscribed programs, and it started its life as Keene State Teachers College. I graduated in 1980, and I immediately went into teaching at my former high school. They hired me right out of the chute. They saw in the paper that I had graduated with a teaching degree, and they hired me as a high school English teacher. And I was absolutely terrible, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I doubt that,
Um,
but go ahead.
and then well, no, my first year, we're going to talk about that because that's part of who I became, who I was, who I am. Then in 1990, I decided I am all done with education. I'm not going to do any more of this. I'm done with it. I went to law school. So I taught during the day. I went to law school at night. And in between there, I had three kids. Loved law school, loved it. I graduated. I passed two bars, Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And I came home and I said to my husband, "This is great. I passed it. We did everything, but I don't want to be a lawyer." He's like, "What?" I've just watched these kids for 4 years. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to be a lawyer. I've always wanted to be a teacher. So I had a couple of negative years where I felt things weren't going my way. And I opted out and I changed my mind. So then I went to Riviera in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I got my administrative certificates. I didn't have to get another degree because I already had a Juris Doctorate. So I got certified as a superintendent and a principal. And I moved to another small district in New Hampshire. I became a curriculum director. And then we have a charter school in Exeter, New Hampshire, which is near me. And I was on the school board. And my superintendent came to me from Exeter and said, "We're going to start a charter school in Exeter and we're going to get the public funding. If they're giving public funding, it doesn't say anywhere that the public schools can't take it. We're going to start our own charter school." I said, "Okay, I think it sounds suspicious to me." He's like, "Yeah, but it's going to be great." So he said, "I need your vote." So I'm like, "Okay." So we all voted for it. It was a great idea. So I'm going to say maybe 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, I get a call from him. And he says, "Hey, Cheryl." I said, "What?" "I need you to quit the board." I'm like, "I didn't do anything. Why do I have to quit the board?" He's like, "No, I need you to quit the board and go to work at the charter school
Oh.
for me. We need an administrator over there. We didn't get one and we need one." So I said, "Fine." I was only part-time at my curriculum director job by that point anyway, because I was working for John Collins.
Hmm.
So that's kind of my educational and job experience. And now I stayed there. I went there for 6 weeks and I stayed for 15 years because I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a project-based school. It's very, very innovative. And that's kind of my philosophy.
Hmm.
So try it. And if it doesn't work, then you don't try it again. So that's kind of where I've been. I'm currently chair of two boards. And I have fun with that, the Charter School Board of Trustees and my local board. I mean, some days it's fun, some days not so fun.
Yeah. Education's
And
day to
that's
day.
my, yeah. But in 2001-ish, I met John Collins. And if anybody's been trained by John Collins, he was the owner of Collins Education Associates, and he was doing a K through 12 training for 2 years at the district where I was curriculum director. And I hated him, and he knew it. I hated him. Oh, no, I hated him. And right now, by the way, just as a sidebar, so nobody gets worried, he called me last night to talk to me about his new house he's buying. So we're the best of friends. But at that, I hated him. I hated his program. I said, I'm not doing it. I am so sick of people coming in and saying they're consultants and making us feel like we don't know anything. I know how to, and I went through the whole thing. So he's just keeps looking at me. And like any good participant, I have my special ways of letting people know I'm not looking at you. I'm not doing anything you say. I got out scheduling at my table and was doing it right in front of him to let him know. That's how kind I was. Well, at the end of that year, the front page of the newspaper, local newspaper, nasty little paper, one of the bottom three performing schools in the state,
Mm.
our school. So the superintendent, who was one of the most delightful humans I've ever met in my life, called me over and he was mad at me. And that was like, oh no, dad's mad. It was awful. He's like, "Cheryl, what have you been doing with the writing?" What do you mean, the Collins writing? He's like, "Yeah, the Collins writing." I said, "I gave everybody their poster." He said, "No, I gave them the poster. What have you been doing to supervise the writing?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." And he said, "Well, you're going to go back and do it now." I said, "Okay." So I went back and I said to the teachers, "All right, faculty meeting, quick, come in here. We're in wicked big trouble." And they all laughed, said, "No, you're in trouble." I said, "Well, if you don't do what I say, you're going to be in trouble too." So I said, "We've got to do this Collins writing business. Complete fidelity, every one of you, every course, every day, so that we can show the superintendent that it's stupid and it doesn't work." And for the whole year, John Collins would come into the building and he'd be like, "Mrs. McDonough, Mrs. McDonough, can you tell me where room 300 is?" I'm like, "I don't know, look near 301." And I would walk away from him because I was so mad. End of the year comes, test scores come out. And back then we tested 4 areas, which I still like that idea, by the way. But anyway, we tested 4 areas and we were top 3 in the state on every area. I
Yeah.
wanted to be mad. I wanted to, but so I had to go back to him. And now I'm not saying it's all Collins writing, but that was the one thing we did as a cohort,
Hmm.
cohesive with fidelity. And I had to go and say, I'm like, "Oh, Dr. Collins, excuse me." And he's like, "No, what?" He said, "I thought you were a little bit crazy. I thought you were going to kill me or something." I said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And he said, "Yeah, what do you want?" I said, "I just want to tell you, I've been reviewing your program more, and I think it might have some merit." And he's like, "Really?" Because John Collins is a very snarky little guy. And he says, "Really, Mrs. McDonough? It's brilliant. My program is brilliant." I said, "Okay, fine, brilliant." And he said to me, "So are you. You're evil, but you're brilliant. And I want you to work for me." I said, "What?" I love that man. I love John Collins. What a great guy. So literally that day he hired me.
Wow.
I never said, you don't go, like you can say this to him. We don't go to school and say, "I'm going to be a consultant." It's just kind of something you evolve into. I never thought about being a consultant. It's just a different kind of teaching.
Hmm.
It's just a different. So he hired me. And from that day forward, I started out just doing 5 or 6 days a year. Not really, actually, maybe 15 or 20 a year. And then I went to the charter school and I said, I can only go there if you give me a job share because I don't want to be there full time because I want to travel. So I did that for a long time. And then in 2015, I retired from all public schools here in New Hampshire and just went full time for John. So that's kind of how, and I've had a very successful career doing the Collins writing.
Well,
So that's kind of where,
well, and that's again, when you came to Dundee, you put it in my brain about consulting as well, that you were doing this and you said you could do this as well if you really wanted to. And it only took me 15 years to figure out that, yeah, I think that is what I want to do. And I want to go out and do my own thing. So, but it is a big change. It's a big transformation from what I thought we're working with kids versus working with adults. You expect kids not to do certain things. You expect adults to be adult, and it doesn't always happen that way. But it's interesting to hear your story because I can see you sitting in the side doing your scheduling and being with no poker face whatsoever,
I'm
letting
not proud
everybody
of
know.
that moment. I'm not
Well,
proud of it, but
it happens. It does do that. And I think I want to ask you a little bit more about the Collins writing because I'm familiar with it, but I don't know how many people outside of our little circle know about it. But it is a great program that I think has merit, as John would say. It's brilliant. Um,
brilliant.
it's brilliant. So tell us a little bit about the process of Collins writing, if you would.
The process of Collins writing is so simple. I don't know why I didn't think of it. It literally, we call it a process. I actually think it's a framework. It's not a writing program, even though the book says that. It's a framework because we're not programming every department. We put writing in each department, but we say do it the way that works for you. So in my mind, that's more of a framework than a program. We recommend highly that you do our framework in every grade, every class. People poo-poo that at first until they see the results. So we have 5 types. The first type is a brainstorm, basically. There's rules about it. We won't go over that.
Hmm.
The second is a constructed response or a quiz question. Type 3 is more about the writing itself. A more substantial piece of writing doesn't necessarily mean longer. You can have a very deep level critical thinking piece of writing that's no more than a few lines. Type 4 is peer edit, and type 5 is perfect and publishable. And I say to many people, you're never going to get to a 5, so stop worrying about it. Really? I said, yeah, let go of that. Let go of it. And I say to a physics teacher, I know you don't want to grade for conventions or grammar. Don't do it. He's like, what? I'm like, no, don't do it. We have editors for that. We'll figure that out later, but still be writing in physics because it's about the critical thinking. It's about using that academic vocab that makes, I used to tell my kids, if you use our academic vocab, you'll be an academician. And they're like, what? I said, academician. Everybody knows that. So those are good, to really give them a way to dig deeply into your content, whatever the content. We have a math book, like we do every content. So instead of just creeping around at that knowledge level, we force that digging deeper. So
Yeah.
that's the dare outline of us. It can be incredibly fun if you let go of your idea that writing has to be boring. We do a lot of fun stuff.
Well, I've taken that idea and I've worked with other school districts about, being consistent with writing across the board in all subjects. And we found that, and this is just, anecdotal, but we found math scores have gone up because their reasoning skills improved with their writing. The understanding of the science processes have gone up because of their understanding of the writing. So those bits and pieces, again, when you take the burden of grammar and those other things that teachers outside of ELA don't know very well and just say, let's focus on your content, it's manageable, but it's still hard. It's still a hard sell.
Yep. Oh, it's a hard sell. That's why you need me. I'm good. If it is a hard sell. And the reason actually, I said to John one day, would you ever even hire me? I was so nasty. And he said, because I knew you would be great at saying to teachers, I get what you're thinking. Just give me till the end of the day. I probably said that to you guys, Norm.
Hmm.
Just give me till the end of the think all you want. Ask me your hard questions. I'm good for it. I'm here for it. I was number 3 in my law school class. I can take it, but give me that chance. And I said, and I don't want to walk around and see you on Facebook. I don't want to walk around and see, I really don't. And I'm going to tap you and ask you, come on, just you promised to give me a chance for a day. You got to be looking at me to give me a chance. And people do.
Hmm.
People, and I say to them right up front, you know what I hate? And they're like, no, what do you hate? I said, I hate PD. They're like, what? I said, I am a victim, and I started teaching in 1980. I am a victim of lots and lots of years of arrogant presenters, of presenters who came in and said that they know more than me. And I'm telling you, I don't know more than you. I just am bringing you something to expand. But you can probably, I always leave with something I didn't know. But
Hmm.
I think every teacher understands what I mean by the people who go, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. What I like to say is, all right, let's look at that you really like to do. Let's figure out how we can put it in the framework.
I
So
love
that's
that.
why once I say that to them, once I say, I don't like PD any more than you do, but I don't mind spending time on something that's going to give me results with my kids.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I think about it. And I think, Norm, you and I are very like-minded. I think you probably think the same thing. I know that we've all seen really ineffective people, and sometimes people who make teachers feel badly about themselves. Teachers have enough people making them feel badly right now. They don't need us to chime in. So that's kind of my philosophy of PD and my philosophy of the classroom. And I say this to teachers all the time. And I say, this is not how I thought when I was a young teacher. I was a really arrogant young teacher, and that's a bad thing to be. Inexperienced and arrogant. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But my theory of the classroom is every kid who walks through your door deserves a seat at the table, number one. And number two, we have to teach the kids we actually have, not the kids we wish we had.
Hmm.
Those are the two rules I live by. And that's why I had that out of the box school in Exeter. And that's still their theory. Every kid deserves a chance. I don't want to hear any of that. Oh, those kids. I don't want to hear that. These are the kids we have, and we're going to teach these kids.
I love that. So I teach a couple courses at Kent State, and obviously they're sophomores through seniors that are not ready for the classroom yet. They are in the process of getting there. They're doing field experiences. What advice do you have for those kids that are about to come into the workplace and they're going to be that deer with in the headlights look when they first come out because that first year it's an eye opener. I don't care where you're at and I don't care what school it is. You think you might know, and if you were the arrogant know-it-all, then that's a problem. But what advice do you have for those kids coming out into that new workplace?
Well, I not only tell young teachers this, but I tell all my teachers this, or I ask them, I'll say, quick brainstorm. What do you think makes an extraordinary teacher? What one thing does every teacher need to be extraordinary? And they're like, oh, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, finally, what? I said, a mirror. Like, what do you mean a mirror? I said, I want you to go home every day. And I don't want you to think about what your kids could have done better. I want you to look in the mirror and say, what one thing could I have changed today to make it a better day for those kids? And that takes care of that. I don't think we practice enough reflection in our craft. And so when I say I was an arrogant teacher, I kind of blamed the victim for a long time. I'm doing a great job. I don't know why they're not learning. Where the question should be, why aren't they learning? Don't say to me, I taught it. I'm pretty sure you taught it, but they didn't learn it. Don't,
Hmm.
I've had a teacher say to me, I know I'm rigorous. I have a high failure rate. I can't remember when I ever learned that being a good teacher means you fail a lot of kids. I think the goal is to get the kids to succeed. So my one piece of advice to them would be look in the mirror, have a mirror, and every day. I actually, in the school that I ran before I retired, instead of lesson plans, I had the teachers do a reflective journal entry at the end of every week.
I
And
love
they
that.
had to, and they would pass it, it was online, Google. They would give it to me, I would look at it, and it would have to tell me what went well, what didn't go well, and what do you need help with, and who do you need the help from? Because I'll get it for you. Because I wanted to take away that feeling that if a teacher asks for help, they're a failure. In my mind, if a teacher asks for help, you're an overwhelming success. So that was what, and they said, we love this. We love this.
Y- I want to say that the idea, and I don't know if you got it from here or not, but it reflects the four disciplines of execution that Covey says, because that's part
Oh,
of the,
yeah.
yeah, that's part of the process is, what, those are the scrum sessions that he talks about in the beginning. What did you do well? What do you need to work on and how can I help? Those are so powerful.
I didn't get it from there, but I consider now I know he must be a very bright guy. No, I I think, to be honest with you, I think because I read so much, I read constantly. I think I absorb these little pieces of things and I don't even realize it. And I say, that's a good thing. Keep it, and I morph them. Like I
Mhm.
never saw somebody substitute that for a lesson plan. But I knew if they could reflect on what was supposed to have been done that month or that week or whatever, I don't need a lesson plan because they're telling me what went right.
Mhm.
So yes, you're probably right. I probably read it. I've read Covey. In fact, I have a great assignment for kids called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Students. And they have to write that.
I
So
yeah, I'm like you. I read a lot and then I forget who to give credit to once I use it. So I have to be careful every once in a while. I'm doing that right now with a mastery piece that I'm doing. I know I read it somewhere, but I can't remember where I got it from. But I love it, so I'm going to modify it and use it. So yeah,
it happens to us, those of us who are big readers. It really does.
right.
Um, but if you want to just credit me for everything, we can have an agreement. I'll credit you for everything, and you credit me for, and it works.
I'll cite that in my next book that
Everybody
Cheryl
will think
says.
we're brilliant.
That's a great idea.
I'm
I
going to
love
give
that.
you some, maybe. Have you read any of the blogs or newsletters of Dave Stewart?
No.
He's, oh, he's a teacher in Michigan or Ohio. It's either Ohio or Michigan. And he's great. Because he still teaches all day, every day. I actually did a big piece on him in our, do you get our newsletter?
No.
If you don't, go on to Collins and subscribe to it. You can go to all the back issues of it, and it gives some great ideas. I know that because I write it. But Dave Stewart, he does this teacher newsletter, and he's just so smart. Like he sent in one of them, what's the best way to get kids to write better? Write. You have to write every day. He just has this great stuff. He philosophically, he agrees very much with what I believe. You've got to make it fun. He's got great games in there. He's got great discussion starters. He's got like the 20-minute debate. There's all kinds of great things. I would highly recommend. And he's got, I think, 4 books. Dave Stewart,
Got it.
and his books are great. But he might be close to you. Oh
Hmm.
no, where are you now?
Northeast Ohio, northeast corner.
Oh, so he might be closest to you. And he was his mentor when he became a teacher had been Collins trained. So
Okay.
that's how he kind of, but I called him up and I said, I've been reading your stuff. Let's talk.
Connections everywhere. It's a good thing. So,
Well, go ahead.
well, I was gonna take us back to your school because the format of your school is a lot of what the schools are requesting now for PD from myself, how to get to PBLs and how to be more ingrained in the actual learning and implementing these skills and how do we get it to work? And you've been doing it for so long at your school. I want to come to the expert that has written every book and I can cite every time on how to create that environment to do that in a school and what does that look like in a classroom?
And the classrooms are never going to look like kids sitting in rows and being silent. Kids do not learn by being silent. Kids learn from dialogue and talking to each other and getting up and moving around and saying, how did you do this? Oh, wait, can we do it this way? We human beings are collaborative. And I don't know who ever thought we have to have kids sitting silent to learn. And I always say to the teachers in my sessions, think back to when the kids were toddlers. That's their biggest learning period, age 1 to 5. Can you imagine if we had all our 3-year-olds lined up and saying, okay, today we just do writing. There will be no blocks. There will be no, we're just doing right. No, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
So first of all, we're a very energetic school. Secondly, we don't mind that the classrooms are fun. I say to some of my English teachers, I say, I love you all. You are my people. But some days I feel like you've been working on making it not fun. Fun doesn't mean it's easy. Fun does not mean it's easy. Fun means the kids are learning in spite of themselves. So, for example, we do something called a quick fire challenge. And I wrote that the very first year we were open. And what it is, remember, we only have 150 kids, 170 kids. We have a small amount of kids. However, we just expanded K through 12. We started with grade 9 and we're now grades K through 12. But we do quick fires, which means stop, drop, and roll. We have morning meeting in the CAF. Everybody, we say, oh, quick fire today. And the kids like, oh my God, quick fire. They have until lunch to do a project. We give them the only materials they can use so that some kids who happen to have more than others, this is all you can use. Here's your 7-element, if you remember our 7-element assignments, where we use the 7-element, which is very similar to a raft. And we say, here's your assignment. You have till lunch. We're going to the lecture hall after lunch. Everybody gets a 15-minute presentation, period. And it's usually a group assignment because part of what they're graded on is being able to collaborate. They love it. One year I gave them treasure chest. Each of them got a treasure chest. Had random stuff in it. Every chest had different stuff in it. We just randomly put it in. And what it really was a banker's box. But we said, here's your treasure chest. You guys found this on an expedition. You've got to tell us who it belonged to, where they were from, just by the evidence, just by the treasure.
I love that.
So they thought this was a fun puzzle game. I know. Guess who wrote it? I love it too. I love it too. And it's funny. I used to do this as a very young teacher, not this, but these kinds of things, and it wasn't received well. And I'd be like, yeah, but they're still doing, but we were more formal. Remember, I'm old, 1980, very formal. We come out of the 70s where it was so informal. And now in the 80s, we went the other way. So I've saved these ideas. But the kids, then they have to do a report out in the lecture hall, and we give them what we call FCAs, which is a rubric, basically. We gave them FCAs on the project itself. Then we give them FCAs on their presentation. And they have to get up and they have to tell the rest of us who this belonged to. And all of the staff, not just their teachers, all of the staff writes them notes back. And that's a quick fire challenge. And then that's it. At the end of the day, it's done. And we grade it knowing that they only had 3 hours to do it. I think it's massively fun. They're hurrying around. Can we have 5 more minutes? It puts that urgency in it, but they love it. Mm-hmm. So I stole that from, I think, Master Chef or something. I was watching TV one night. I'm like, why can't we do it in school? No, every day I think about how can wait a minute. I read something in the newspaper. Oh, cut that out. We're going to do a summary on that. I think teachers are always thinking like teachers. Mm-hmm. My son, I watched, what's the movie with Angelina Jolie where she's Maleficent? Is that it? Where she's sleeping? Yeah. And I watched it one day with my granddaughter. And I called up my youngest son, who's an English teacher. I'm like, Johnny. He's like, no, now what are you going to tell me I got to do, Mom? I said, look, you have to show the kids this movie. And then you have to have them read the original song. And then you have to, he's like, oh, okay, Mom. Yeah, I got that. I got it. He doesn't got it. He just says yes to me. But I think I'm always thinking like a teacher. And I know you are too. No, we always think about that.
That is
I don't
something.
even know.
Yeah, that is something that I get credit for, is that if they come up with a standards they have to teach, I can come up with something to go along with it that I combine with a TV show or a song or something, just so it's integrated. And I love the idea of the treasure chest and just letting them explore ideas. And the evidence piece ties in so well, even though they may not be required to write. They may just do it to help.
There has to be a writer in the group. And
that's perfect. Yeah.
No, I'll send you some of the stuff.
Well, and that was going to be my next point. You did it as a school. It would be very easy to then bring that down to a classroom level and do it once an hour that you have 45 minutes to complete this project and go and just see what they come up with. And then tomorrow we can present or however you want to do it. But you have X amount of time. Those challenges are something that kids really love. And
They do.
it's a puzzle. It's a big puzzle for them. It's a great approach.
I always, I don't know if this is a good memory or not. When I was teaching English at a little school here where I became the curriculum director, my principal came to me one day, great guy. He's still one of my best friends in the world. He's like, Cheryl. I said, what? He said, did I read a report today that you had a kid get a bloody nose from diagramming sentences? I said, yeah, that was my class. He did. He's like, could you talk to me a little bit about that? I said, well, they hate diagramming, but I know it's a great way for them to understand how sentences are put together. So I made it relay races. They loved it. They would say every couple, can we do, and I'd say, yeah, we'll take 10 minutes. We'll do that. They knew the diagramming in and out.
Yep.
So he's like, okay, I said, no, Andrew loved it. And then he's like, did I win? I said, you won. You won. Bloody nose, you won. But I think that if we think out of the box, I think part of my problem as a young teacher, I taught the way I was taught. So
Mhm.
however I was taught, that's how because I think that's how you think you're a teacher. The other problem is I thought every kid learned like I learned. So I am a reader writer and a talker, in case you don't know, but I'm verbal. I like everything verbal, reading, writing, all verbal. And I said, everybody must do it that way. So that's how we'll do it in my class. And when kids were floundering, I'm like, oh, did you study last night? Well, that's before I had my mirror.
Mhm.
When did I finally realize I needed a mirror? When I had all three of my kids. Every one of them is 100% different. Every one of them's incredibly bright, but they all do school differently. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, I've been doing this wrong. I got to change the way I think about this. And literally, I did. My own kids made me change the way I think about it. And I became a completely different teacher. But my youngest son went to my school. And he'll say no, it saved him
Mhm.
because suddenly he re-engaged with education. He's very bright. He's got a Master of Fine Arts, #1 in his class, very bright, but he was disengaged from school. So for some kids, it doesn't work for everybody.
Mhm.
People always say, oh, you just want to take away from the public schools. I said, first of all, we are a public school. But secondly, no, we don't. What we want to do is have a safety net for the kids who just aren't making it there, or for kids who want a more hands-on experience.
The,
And
the
that's what we did. We did things like that.
The the whole process that you're describing, including the writing piece, it lent itself so well to the classroom that I was teaching at the time because I was a full inclusive classroom with no aid, and it really opened my eyes to a different approach in how to get the basic skills that I sometimes lacked as a teacher in the writing area. I wasn't trained for writing. So this
Right.
helped me get that idea. I can do this and make it effective and still do these fun things that I know kids like because that's what I was good at. Again, like you, my project got too big and I would run out of time. So I had to oh, that didn't work so well. So now I had to readjust. But it was the technical pieces that I needed more guidance on. And that's what Collins gave me when you came to our school. It really
Yep.
did help solidify the whole picture.
And the things we do at the school, the project-based school, is every project is firmly rooted in academic standards. So a lot of people think, oh, projects, that's too easy. I'm rigorous. I'm rigorous. I don't do projects. Our projects are so hard, kids will say to us, this is way harder than taking an exam. Can't you just give me an exam? Oh, no, 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 no. So almost every project we do is interdisciplinary. So the teachers will all get together and create the project.
Yeah.
But I understand big schools can't do that. But sometimes you have a team, or sometimes you could work with, your friend, the science teacher or whatever. But we also had courses like we had science fiction course. So we'd have a science teacher and an English teacher teach it together. And that was loads of fun. So we're trying to think more about all subjects are connected instead of going back and getting into our little fiefdoms. The reality is the world is connected. And so everything you're learning is connected.
So you are in a lot of schools still. You're constantly going in and out and seeing different classrooms. What are some of the things that you're seeing now that are working so well for teachers? I have a group of teachers that I work with that, they're fired up, they're ready to go, but like you said, they only know what they know. So just giving them other ideas on what could be out there that teachers are doing that are so effective and so engaging for kids.
Finding low risk experiences, because every grade that kids go through, they either say, I'm the greatest student ever, or they have decided, I just can't do this. I'm a bad student. So you don't know who you're inheriting. So I firmly believe that you should give a lot of low risk things. Today, we're going to try this. List 3 vocab words we did last week, and I need you to argue with your group what's the most important. Everybody just gets a check for trying it, but they're talking about this. The low risk experiences, I think, build the confidence. Then when kids get confident, they get better at everything else. Then they're not the kid who doesn't have the right answer anymore. I think about that sometimes. When I was a young kid, when elementary school, I was bright and I was a good student. I'm going to be a good student. My oldest son is very bright and he's like, why would I get 100 when I get a 60 and pass? But I wanted to be the best until high school. And that's a different part of my story. But I used to say to the teacher when we would correct each other's papers, oh, give me Norm's, because in my head I'm thinking Norm never gets anything right. And I'm going to be able, yeah. So I say low risk experiences, whether it's in PE or math or family and consumer science or English. Give them experiences they can feel successful at. Give them experiences where they're talking to people, I think, and when I go by in a school and I'm going down the hallway and I look and every room is silent and the people are in rows, it makes me very nervous. But when I go in and kids are excited and they're up, my I'm going to give you an anecdote, as I do, Norm. My best friend is a school nurse. My best friend is a school nurse. Not anymore. She retired too, but my very best friend since we were in like 6th grade. So one day she said to me, well, so and so is an excellent teacher. I said, Kathy, how do you know she's an excellent teacher? You're a school nurse. What, did she put Band-Aids on, right? What are you talking about? Well, no, but she never sends anybody to the nurse. And when I walk down the hall, everybody's quiet and they're sitting at their desks. I said, oh, yeah, welcome to 1964, Kath. That's not, and I explained the whole thing to her. She's like, oh my God, you're right. You're right. But I think we have this vision. You're a good teacher if everybody's on, not even on task, just silent. You can have lots of kids at those desks who are on no task. So I also want low risk and I want them to do activities where you can't fall through the cracks. So there's no place to hide.
Mhm.
I want every kid to come to the table, no place to hide. And that you say to them, you know what? Don't be afraid to screw up, because I know, Norm, if you're screwing up, you're trying. It's the people who say to me from minute one, I'm all set, who I don't believe. So kids, and they'll say that to people. Miss McDonough says, that's a great mistake you made. And that's what I do. I'm trying to get that vision of you've got winners and losers in the classroom. Everybody's going to be a winner. You can be a winner if you're wrong or a winner if you're right. Because learning isn't about, if you're right immediately and then where's the learning really?
Mhm.
I want the process of learning to be, it's okay to be wrong. And
Yeah.
that's a hard one for some teachers. But I
Yes.
think we've got to do that. Yep.
The
So
the
those are kind of my philosophy.
Well, and that goes back to my days as an administrator when I had to go into classrooms and do evaluations, and it would be the dog and pony show of look how well I can control the kids, and I'm just the opposite. I want to see the kids taking chances where you don't know where it's going, and
Right.
you're able to adapt and help them in their pathway, whatever that looks like. So it's interesting, and I think that's also something that's taught still in a lot of colleges that you have to have great classroom management and a strict discipline and this and that. Don't smile till Christmas. All those little things that they used to tell us that really just aren't true. You have to
And I
let kids
think you can have
explore.
good classroom management with the kids being up and around. Believe me, I didn't have any bad classroom management after my first few years. Those were a little sketchy.
We
I
won't
had to
talk about those.
learn my craft. But you can have the kids. In fact, I believe because my kids in yeah, we won't talk. The kids in Exeter, where the project school, love the school so much. and love being there and love their class. We have very few discipline problems other than regular goofy kid stuff. Nothing, I won't tell you what, but you give boys clay, you're going to have a problem, but not anything, very little disrespect, very little. The kids are happy and they're engaged. And I hate to use that word because I think in some places the word engagement has been confused with entertainment, and that's not true. I think that engagement means active cognitive engagement. And you need to go in and look at those kids and say, if I'm looking at them, they're learning. As an administrator, I can look. They're learning. Somebody's saying, "Oh, I didn't get it that time. Hang on, Bob, what are you?" That's learning.
Mm.
And that's what I like to see. Active cognitive engagement. It doesn't engagement doesn't mean you're showing the Lion King on Friday and giving them popcorn because they were good.
Hmm. Well,
Engagement means the brains.
I give the example. I walked into a classroom where the teacher was reading a story to the kids as they were eating popcorn. And there was one boy sitting in the front row that was just staring at the teacher and he kept missing his mouth with the popcorn because he was thinking so much about what was going on. I go, that is true deep engagement for that child. And he was perfectly still, but he kept missing his mouth and there was a pile of popcorn underneath his on his table when he got done. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I just realized I haven't eaten any popcorn yet." That's
Well, and
engagement.
people say, well, you just don't want us to show more. I said, I don't care if you show a movie, but don't have it be because you're good. Have it be, we're going to have 20 minutes of The Lion King. I want you to find 3 examples of allusion in here and write them down.
Hmm.
I don't want a reward because you did your job this week. I said, if that were true, I'd get every Friday off. So we're not doing that. And with what has been put on the backs of teachers now that I never had to deal with, you don't have time to do that. Every minute matters. But anyway, I have become a huge fan of projects because if they're well built, they are very rigorous. Now, if it's building, a paper mache, I don't know, Empire State Building with no out, like, what's the outcome? I don't know. You just told me about that's a bad project. But
Right.
we were the first wholly competency-based school in New Hampshire.
Really.
Oh, yes. I
Mm.
know. I've got so much stuff. Well, it's because I'm old. The older you get, the more stuff you have. But we struggled, but we didn't give up. We struggled like a lot of, even one of the districts I worked with not far from you. Um, when they struggled on the competencies, they kind of moved away from it. Rather than when I struggle, we say, no, we got to fix it. We're not going away from it. It's still a good idea.
Hmm.
So it took us a few years to figure that out. It took us a few years to figure out how to train parents to understand 1, 2, 3 isn't ABC. So, but we had our growing pains. The first person who opened my school wanted the kids to sit at computers all day. I never believed that was going to work with any kids, but I think I was validated by the pandemic.
Yeah,
Valid.
we learned a lot from the pandemic on what to do and what not to do, and we need those kids in front of us interacting. And the computer is a simple tool and not a teacher. I mean, there's no replacing the person in front of you. Teachers are so important, and I want to make sure that every teacher listening to this give yourself credit for the role that you play. And I found the stat that says if you are a middle school teacher, you're only impacting that student for 2% of their entire life. And yet they could name the type of sweater you were wearing when you walk in the classroom on a certain day because that's the impact you have. It's the teacher's not a replaceable part of school at all.
Will be. Now, do I use, like, I tutor and I have a couple of kids who I tutor one day on Zoom and one live. I mean, but they have an interaction with me and I'll see them. And I don't mind a hybrid version where, you do check-ins and this, but I don't think kids should be put in front of a computer the whole day.
No,
And they
no.
had all these programs like Play-Doh and all those. And I'm like, no, get rid of them. And so as soon as I walked in, I said, all the computers go to the edge of the room. I want tables in the middle, and kids are not to go to a computer until the teacher says, now it's time for you to go look that up. Because that's how strongly I feel. And I think the research is starting to bear that out.
Hmm.
They don't need so much screen time. I have too much screen time, if I'm to be honest. And then I'll be like, oh, a whole hour went by, and I have to check myself. It's an addiction kind of. I mean, a lot of mine is work. I can't lie. I have paperwork. That's the problem with paperwork. But and I think that computers are a great tool, but they're just a tool. I think teachers are so important and we don't take care of them well enough. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm doing a Marzano online PD this afternoon. The PD is going to PD because we learn from each other.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go with my teachers and we're going to watch it together about building a strong climate in your school so your teachers feel valued.
So
And
needed.
it doesn't have to be a big thing. In fact, some of the schools that have the worst climates, the teachers are getting all kinds of big presents and stuff. They're like, we don't care. Well, and some of the schools with the best climates, they gave them a Valentine card with a heart candy, and they're like, we love our. So it's got nothing to do with that. It's a feeling. It's a
Hmm.
feeling like I can be vulnerable. I can take a risk.
Hmm.
So to me, that's what makes it great stuff. But teachers, no, we're very important.
Very, very important. And speaking of time, our screen time is already limited. We're pretty much to the point where I need to wrap this up. And I love talking with you, but I know my audience is expecting between 45 and 50 minutes, so we have to let you go.
Well, if you ever want to do something just on project based, let me know, Norm, and I can bring in one of my teachers with me and we can talk about that.
And I will make sure my
And if
internet connection
anybody
is
would like
better.
to, if anybody would like to see me in person, how do I get them my contact information?
I actually tell them at the end they can reach out to me and I will put the contact information,
Okay.
or I can put it at the end of the video, however you would like to do this, because I
Just
don't.
that C McDonough, just that C McDonough at Collins Ed, and I'll get back to people.
There you go. And I
Oh, I
will
am.
have your name printed on the bottom of this so they can actually get the spelling right. So all that stuff I can add on here. And I do think you're a valuable resource, a great educator, and you have phenomenal ideas. You're brilliant yourself, not just John. You're brilliant as well. I'm going to wrap this up by saying if you do want to contact Cheryl, you can either slow that down and write down the email as she said it, or you can contact me at norm@normpotter.com. You can check out my website and I can get you any information that you need. My website is structuredcreativityconsulting.com, and make sure you subscribe after watching this video because Cheryl was top notch today, high energy, which I love. So if you have any questions or you have any comments or concerns, please reach out. Until next week, please be kind, be professional, and find solutions. Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome, Norm.